instead of starting from the end, start from the beginning. Okay, so if you've attended some of these others, you know I do a lot of research in early New England records, and there are ways you can find out if you have ancestors that came that far back, you know how they got here and where they came from. And then I have another, just to compare that with more recent 19th century immigration. I have an example of that. So mine is more of a case study, if you will, you know, looking at a single person or family and seeing how you can find out about them. And then Jerry's going to do a more broader search and show, you know, various places you can go to find the information you're looking for. So the biggest difference, I guess, here is that if you're looking at the early immigrants, there really are no the records of that time are very different from more recent times. You need to kind of depend on hopefully finding journals. Perhaps you can find some court records. There's been a lot of historical research, especially on New England people, that can be really useful in terms of finding out about them. To a more modern times, when we have actual census records that you know that identify people by name, those are pretty useful. You might be able to find ship manifests that show a listing of all the passengers, and you might be able to find the actual naturalization records when they became U.S. citizens. So, tracking my colonial migrant. This period of time really goes from 1620 to 1640. Pretty much, I mean, thousands of English folks migrated to New England, especially, but all, you know, through all the early colonies. But I'm focused on New England, so that's where my example will be. A lot of research has been done on these early settlers, and which meant that, I mean, some of these migrants kept records, and I have found some really good court records that helped provide a lot of additional information. So just as an example, going back to the Mayflower, Bradford's history of Plymouth Plantation, he also included basically a census. So I descend from this James Chilton, and his really from his daughter Mary, because as it says here, they died. They actually died. He signed the Mayflower Compact, but didn't make it all the way to Plymouth. But his daughter survived, and as it says here, you know, had a number of children, and so on. So anyway, you know, this was an easy thing to find, for example. There are some reconstructed passenger lists. This shows, just as an example, early records were, you know, transcribed and printed, mainly because there was a lot of interest in these early settlers. This is the book that came from. It's called The Planners of the Commonwealth of. This is Massachusetts records. So the ancestor I'm looking for is Thomas Blanchard. My ancestor who came in 1639, and it shows here he came on the ship Jonathan. And it lists passengers that were identified from, and as it says here, Middlesex files. So that gave me a hint that I should look for the court records to see what else I could find. One important omission here is that one of his sons that I descend from is not listed on this list. So he was pretty young. He was only like 9 or 10 years old when they came to this country. But anyway, his son is Samuel, and Samuel, to his great credit, kept a very brief diary, just he jotted down names of his kids and so forth. But in there, he included that he was born in the year, in 1629, August the 6th, that he came to New England and landed on the 23rd day of June in 1639. And he eventually moved to what is now Andover, Massachusetts, in 1686. So a lot of great hints here just from this one snippet of a journal. The bigger, the more interesting thing is this Middlesex County Court case, Blanchard versus Barnes. So I won't go into a whole lot of this detail, but basically it was Richard Barnes was a stepson of Thomas Blanchard, and money was given by his mother to her brother John Bent, which again gives you a lot of family connections. Just reading through the court record here, it kind of gave you a picture that they came over as a family group, and this John Bent actually had already come to Massachusetts prior, first, really, before the others came. So unfortunately, his wife's name is Agnes. She was near death on the ship, and she desired her husband, Tom Blanchard, that when he came to New England, he would endeavor that her children might have their own or their due, she knowing that it was in Mr. Noy's hands for her son Barnes, Richard Barnes. So anyway, that's where the court case started. And like I said, you can pull out a lot of other, you can discover a lot of other relationships, family members that were on the ship. So, but unfortunately, Agnes and her mother was also on the ship. She also died. So there were testimony from other passengers. So here's a witness from, her name is Frances Cook. And she states that she came to New England in the same ship in the year 1639, that the ship came from London. And I assume Nantasket, there's a Nantasket Beach, I know, down near Boston. Evidently there was, it's an older name for that a place in Boston Harbor, as near as I can tell. But this was important because in the other book that I looked at, they originally came from an area in Andover, in Hampshire, England. And the closest port, London was not the closest port. So I was really kind of fun to actually discover this, that they actually sailed from London. They somehow made it overland from Andover to London, and then sailed from there. So again, the court case helps put together some of the pieces. And then in terms of what it might cost to travel in those days, this Peter Noyes, who was, near as I can tell, a friend of the family, pretty close friend, maybe some other relative. Anyway, he paid £5 out of the estate of Agnes for the passage of Thomas Blanchard and his wife. And this Elizabeth Plimpton is another relative who was, I think, one of the executors of her estate. So anyway, you get, you can start piecing together that, there was a lot of other testimony and so forth in there about the voyage and what went on. But in terms of what I'm looking at here today is just, these court records actually help you piece together how they got here, where they came from, what ship they came on, and so on. In terms of resources for these early settlers, this Great Migration Dictionary directory is literally just a directory. It gives the person's name, but it does give some helpful references about what is, what other people have found out about the person. That's again, it's very brief. It's just a finding aid, really. The Great Migration series, there's two sets of books. One is Great Migration Begins, which covers 1620 to 1633. And then there's a 7-volume series that covers the years 1634, 1635. They, I guess, are still working on it, and I'm always hopeful they'll get up to 1639, so I can see what else they've, what they've researched there. Another good book is this New England Marriages Prior to 1700. The latest edition also gives the references, where the information came from that ended up in the, this list of marriages, and it's very extensive. It's a 3-volume set. Again, it doesn't give you a lot of information. It just tells you where to look to find more. So again, if you have early ancestors, especially if they're in this part of the country, an excellent resource. So shifting gears a little bit, so looking at a Scottish immigrant, and one of the good places to get started with that was the census itself. So in 1880, the census is, well, they're in there, first of all, so that, you need to find a census where they might be there. But in this case, Matthew Miller and his wife, Catherine, they were living in New Haven, Connecticut. The 1880 census lists the relationships in the family, so they were husband and wife, and that they had 4 children with them in New Haven. The other thing, it does give birthplaces. So off on the right, if you can see it, they were all born in Scotland except for the youngest son, and he was born in Connecticut. So he was 6 years old, so I was guessing that perhaps they came here in 1873. Just based on his age and the fact that he was born in Connecticut. So the next census that's available is 1900 census. This one gives a lot more detail if you're looking for people who are, who came to this country, they were not born here. So in this case, the 1900 census shows, again, Matthew and Catherine with this one daughter there and her husband. The record shows that he came in 1880 and his wife and daughter came in 1881, and that they are now all naturalized citizens. Again, with that information, it's possible to then try to find the naturalization papers, and possibly you might find when they, how they got here, what ship they came on, and so forth. So that there are 3 census records that include information like this. So we've got 1900, and then you got 1910. He's still living in New Haven, but he's a widower. The immigration, for some reason, says 1870, although the previous one's, 1880. And it does confirm again that he's a naturalized citizen. And then 1920 also includes this information. He died before the 1920 census, so this is his son John that I have here. It shows that he immigrated in 1880 and was naturalized in 1887. So one of the interesting things with this part of it is that in this time period, once Matthew became a U.S. citizen, his family also became U.S. citizens. And if he came in 1880, it looks like he came with his father, but his mother and sister, and probably the other children, obviously, came in a year later in 1881. Assuming the information on the census records is correct. So anyway, it helps in terms of knowing what to look for. So I found this naturalization record for Matthew Miller, Scotland. This says he was naturalized in October of 1888. I got all excited when I found this little card, and I thought, boy, there must be, I say this volume 8, page 4, so there must be some other information on that. So I made a trip in New England. The immigration records are kept at the National Archives office in Waltham, Massachusetts. So I made a trip down there, gave them the information I had, and sadly, all they told me was, well, what you've got there is probably all the information we have. So anyway, it's kind of a dead end. What I was hoping to find, and I think Jerry will probably talk a lot more about it, is all of the paperwork that goes with becoming a naturalized citizen. And all I have is this card that I know it happened, but I didn't have any other information. So in terms of trying to find out more about him, I did discover this record where he applied under the U.S. Social Security Act, which gave a lot of great information. It shows when he was born in 1865, that he was born in Dumbarton, Scotland, that his parents are Matthew Miller and Catherine Bowie. So now I have a maiden name to go with Matthew and Catherine. So it gives us a time, a place, and some connected relatives to, in terms of doing further searching. So I was really happy to find this one. Scotland does have an excellent website for looking up records called Scotland's People. The tip that I would have for you, if you do have Scottish relatives and you're trying to find something, is look for them first on Ancestry, if you have an Ancestry account, or if you don't and you're in the local area, the libraries in Rockingham and in Brattleboro do have Ancestry that you can use, and they have the international version, the world version of Ancestry, which is really helpful. Or look on Family Search. On there, you probably you might see a transcript or an index. At least in my experience, I didn't find the actual document. I think that's probably because it was controlled by Scotland. But once you know the people and places from the transcript, then you can go to Scotland's People and find the actual record. It does save you some time and money to do it that way. You have to pay a fee to get records on Scotland's People. Just to kind of quickly show you what that looks like. So here, I narrowed the search to look for census records. I knew that they were here they came here in 1880. And so what I was looking for was, well, where were they a decade earlier? In this case, Scotland does their census at the beginning of each decade, 1841, 51, 61, and so forth. But 1871 was in there, so I could search on that. You can search by name, and you can put in if you know where they're from and so forth, you can narrow it down. So in searching for their name, there's a lot of Matthew Millers. In this case, I was able to, I could narrow it down based on the other information that I had. Just briefly on how this works, just in case some people are looking for that. You need to set up an account on Scotland's People at scotlandspeople.gov.uk. It's free to sign up. And at this point now, the search results, when you search, and you can see like this page, for example, you can see that for free. That's a change from the past. They used to charge you to see the results, but now they let you see the results first. Each document you are charged a certain number of credits. You have to buy a credit bundle. The lowest amount you can buy is 30 credits for £7.50. And then you charge a certain number of credits for each document. Once you've paid for it, though, as you can see here in green, next to Matthew Miller, it says view paid, so you can go back and see the document again if you want to, you can obviously copy it. This is what it looks like for them. This was 1871 census. We got Matthew and his wife Catherine and 4 children. He's working as a riveter in a shipyard. Tells where he was born, Renfrewshire. I'm not good with Scottish pronunciation. And the rest of the family was born in Dunbarton. So anyway, their records give you a lot of information as well. And unlike our 1870 census, this one does tell you how they're related to each other, which is really helpful, what their names are and what they're doing. Where they were in, the place, not only, it's not just a state, but it's actually, the city or town that they were born in. So it's very helpful census. So again, just to kind of, one other search that I did, again, I first searched I did this on Family Search to see what was available. I got this transcript that showed Matthew Miller marrying Catherine Bowie in 1860 in Glasgow. So with this information, I had a better sense of where to look. And then I searched in the statutory registers for marriages. What a little word of caution here. Check, there's a little next to the name that you type in, there's a thing that says search options. There's several different ones there. If you make it exact, which I did on my first search, I didn't get anything with Matthew Miller. So I reset it to search for phonetic matching, and then I came up. It turns out his name in Scotland, his surname was spelled with it, M-I-L-L-A-R, not E-R. So it didn't come up in the first search, but it did come up in the next one. And then since I could find, I knew where they were married and when from the previous searches, then I could get a copy of their marriage record. Which again provides a lot of good genealogical information, tells where they were married. Again, he was working as a boilermaker, she was a steam loom weaver, but it also, in terms of genealogy, gave his parents' names and her parents' names, which again is a big help in terms of, if you want, in terms of finding other information. So I guess that's kind of it for my little tour of these 2 immigrants to our country. I don't know, are there, I can stop the share here.
Really great, Wayne. Thank you.
So I couldn't see the chat at the time. Are there anything we have there?
No questions yet.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask, or ask in the chat. Asking, are the books you mentioned available in the library? So the Great Migration.
In Rockingham, some of them are. They have the complete set of The Great Migration Begins is there. Part of the set of the other Great Migration series. The marriage, New England Marriage, is 3-volume set is in there. So
That's in Rockingham.
Rockingham, I don't know what
Wayne,
Brattleboro has. Yes.
Joanne,
Hi.
I have relatives that came across somewhere in Canada to Strongsville, Ohio, and that's the first I know of my Scottish ancestry in this country. And I know when Strongsville was founded, I don't know the name of my relative. I know the last name, it's McNeil, but when is the earliest census record that I might be able to find them?
1850.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. All right.
The only thing there with 1850, they list the family, but they don't list how they're related. In other words, they list the members of the household. But from there, you can make some guesses and see what else you could find. What year did they come and across? Do you know that?
See, we're not sure. We think around 1850, 51, 52, really early.
So maybe the 1860 census would
Okay.
be the first one they would appear in.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Well, this is Sharon. I'm kind of a displaced Yankee, but Joanne, it's ironic that you would mention Strongsville, Ohio, because I was born in Cleveland, and I am trying to search on my grandmother's side for my Canadian relatives. Well, I have a long history of how I got connected to this group, but I've been going back and forth to New England for many years, but trying to find a permanent residence up in Vermont or New Hampshire at the present time. But I just know my grandmother on my father's side and my mother. I can't go back any further to either one of those. And I have Polish ancestry. So I don't know where to start.
We must be related. That's the other side of my family, Polish, Russian.
Really?
We should get together.
Small world.
I know,
Well,
right?
There are probably 54,000 of you.
Yeah, check it out on Family Search. See who's online today. There are, well, Family Search would have records, Canadian records. There are, if you, well, Ancestry would as well, except that you would need their worldwide subscription. Or again, like I said, if you're near a library that has the Ancestry Library Edition, that is the worldwide one. So you might find things there. There are a lot of, I've not done much with Canadian research. Do you know which part of Canada you're talking about? I just wonder if it was Quebec or the other
No,
provinces.
it's Ontario, around
Ontario.
the Algonquin Provincial Forest.
Oh,
And I'm very curious about this because of Native American. And my grandmother used to go over Lake Erie and look and go meet the people. My parents never talked about it.
oh,
That was a generation they never talked.
huh,
So, but I know my grandmother used to go over Lake Erie to those mixed bloods, I call them, over there in Canada.
huh.
And I'm very curious. That would be the first search that I would really be interested in, to see those roots up there in Canada and the Native American background, because I'm very steeped in that culture. And I don't, down here in Tennessee, well, there are a lot of tribes down here, but I'm specifically interested in the northern tribes and the Algonquins, and well, that's up there in Canada. But anyhow, that's where I want to start the search because of that Native American connection. So I don't know where I'd start from there.
Well, you pretty much have to start with the ones you know about. So do you know what the earliest ancestor was that moved to this
My
country?
my grandmother and my grandfather
Okay,
on both sides. I mean, they were both Polish that way, but I know if I go past that, dig deeper in generations, I would say they're from Siberia. You know, this, it's 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 always intrigued me, but you know, when I went to my first powwow, that was many, many years ago down here in Tennessee, with the Cherokee, and I've met a lot of Blackfeet and tribes from all over the different nations, but when I first went to that, this was 25 years ago, I mean, something really resonated with me. I mean, it was really in my gut. So I also wanted to ask with the DNA, what's the best, would that be helpful? The DNA?
it can
center?
be.
What's,
Yep.
what's the best source for that?
We have some video on that. That was our topic in our last session in January was
Oh.
using DNA to connect to family trees. So in the chat, I put a link up to our YouTube channel, and if you, after this is over, you can explore some of those videos because we addressed some of those questions there, and then that might elicit some others from you as well. And have to mention that Roots Tech, Wayne mentioned that earlier. There are a lot of sessions on various parts of ethnicities and genealogies. And I know last year when Roots Tech was done, there were several on researching Native American.
What was that? What was that? I'm sorry,
It's called Roots Tech. The website that Wayne mentioned at the beginning of our meeting. It's a 4-day meeting in Salt Lake City, which is happening right now. It started on Thursday. It runs through today, and it's completely free. All you have to do is register for the familysearch.org account, and then you can look at all the sessions. And I believe, Wayne, are the sessions from last year still available? You know?
They might be.
Yeah, but anyway,
I was looking at I was watching live events.
Yeah,
But so I didn't search through their whole catalog.
what they have,
Oh.
but yeah, they record and they archive their videos. So I think that one might be a good place for you to look as well.
I've been
just real-
attending the Roots Tech since Thursday, and went through quite a few of the sessions that they have recorded, and they go back a couple of years in their recordings. So there's a lot of
okay.
really good. Okay, good.
Right. So they are still there
Yeah.
because the last 2 years they did it all online.
Oh,
So,
they had to. That's right. So
Um,
it's a huge. I mean, it's a really big genealogy gathering.
just real quick to finish up with if you haven't tested and you want to test, what I would recommend doing is testing with Ancestry DNA. They have a huge site, but the other thing that's useful for that is that you can then download your DNA results and upload them to several other sites, MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA, and so forth. Other sites will accept your DNA results, which saves you some money. What it does is expand the number of possible matches. I mean, the thing that's most useful for that is if you can find hopefully a more recent cousin, that might help you in terms of they may have information, for example, that you don't have, and if they have posted a family tree along with their DNA results, the website does a lot of work for you in terms of finding those connections.
well, unfortunately, I only have one cousin. They're all gone. So.
Well, you're going to find more
I'm
distant.
like a lone wolf here.
Well, you're going to find more distant cousins, though, is what I'm saying. Second
Okay.
cousins, third cousins.
Well, thank you.
By doing that.
Another question in the chat for you, Wayne. As a history teacher, I taught that 10% of the population descends from the Mayflower log. Can you confirm that this is accurate?
Oh, well, I don't know about the 10%. I don't get you that
Yeah.
exact, but there are.
It's
you know,
30 million, I think.
evidently
That's
millions
huge.
of people that can trace their ancestry back to a Mayflower passenger.
Right. I
which-
believe American Ancestors has quoted 30 million, but you know.
So, I mean, it, well, as you can see, the example that I gave there, my ninth great grandmother had 9 children. And then, of course, her kids probably had about the same, so it starts, you start getting a lot of possibilities, as you go down through the generations. In fact, you could even not even be in this country and still claim descendancy from a Mayflower ancestor. The woman I referred to, Mary Chilton, had other siblings who never came to this country, but they could a person could trace their ancestry to that Chilton family, could also join the Mayflower Society. We probably ought to switch up, Jerry, and let.
Yeah, why don't
you go
why don't we do that? And if we have time, we can address other questions that you might have. So, so I'm going to do the sort of the latter part of the 19th century and early 20th century immigration record presentation. So the just want to mention that we have a resource list available, which I've put in our folder on the Google Drive. So let me see if I can find the source right here quickly, but I may not have it up. But at any rate, it's there with some of the sources I'm going to talk about today, and also mention these couple of sources for immigration history. This book by John Coletta, They Came in Ships. He's a renowned genealogist and covers very specifically, what you should be looking for, how you should be doing the research in ship manifests and ship arrivals throughout the early 19th and 20th century. And for Ellis Island, this is a very good text, American Passage, History of Ellis Island. I believe these should be at either library, and if not, you can get them through interlibrary loan. So I'll be talking primarily about websites as Wayne did. So here, let's get my. Okay, so we're going to start with searching for ancestors by way of immigration records. All right, so what are our primary records for this type of research? Well, as Wayne showed, we have ship manifests. We also have border crossings, those crossings that came over our mutually shared borders from Canada and Mexico. Naturalization records, which is a whole nother group of records that can help identify when your ancestors arrived and where they came from. And then some of these other records that do derive from either of these sources. Alien registration records, where people needed to register their being in the country during World War I and during World War II, and any detention and special inquiry records that people were detained when they tried to enter the country. So all of these records are available to a lesser or more extent. Okay, so let's just maybe provide some context, and this will be sort of getting into an overview And it'll be just a brief overview of the major immigration law. So in 1790, the first Naturalization Act was passed, and it allowed any white person to apply for citizenship if they lived for at least 2 years in the US. 1819 came another large act which sought to regulate the conditions of people coming over, and this had to do with ship captains had to submit a list of passengers to the collector of customs. So these were customs reports, and they included very brief information: name of ship, port of embarkation, date of arrival, passengers' names, age, sex, occupation, and perhaps their nationality, but just very sketchy information. But from that, we get our earliest ship manifest starting at about 1820. Then we go along 1875, the states start passing legislation, and some of these laws are challenged in the Supreme Court, and it's the old, states' rights versus federal government authority, and it actually established federal government authority over immigration. In 1882, we have our Exclusion Act, which first one that bans Chinese immigrants from coming to the US. And then the Immigration Act of 1891 expands on that, excluding polygamists, and we know who that might be aimed at, criminals, diseased people. And that's when Ellis Island starts recording their opening up and inviting immigrants. 1917, the Immigration Act requires literacy requirements for immigrants, and it halts the immigration from most Asian countries. So they actually even expand it. Then 1924, the Immigration Act passes a quota system, which established that no more than 2% of the total number of people from each nationality in the US, based on the 1890 census, which, by the way, was destroyed. Most of it was destroyed in a fire, so we can't even access that now. But at that time, more than 2% of who came over, those nationalities were established, and the law favored Northern and Western European immigrants. So anybody from the southern climes, as my father and grandparents came from, would have come under that act. In 1952, the McCarran-Walter Act, it ends the exclusion of all Asians into the U.S. So that wasn't until the late 50s, early 50s. And then there was an Immigration National Act of 65, would put an end to the national origin quotas enacted in the 20s. So that was quite a bit of limitation, even up to 1965. So it gives you some context of when you can't find somebody. These various acts will sort of define why that happens. Okay, so the ship manifests are rare before 1820, and that's when they were just keeping the manifests on their own. They weren't required to. And the Philby Passenger and Immigration List Index is actually available online, I think, up to the 1981 supplement. As they keep finding these things, so they will add to them. So you can actually get that at the familysearch.org site to look at. So if you're wanting to know more about, and Wayne mentioned this in his talk, 1820 to 1891, their customs list, and most of those are giving scarce information, as we mentioned, and it's obviously difficult when you have a John Smith or a Daniel McCarthy or something like that, a common name. It's hard to then decide, is this the right person? Is this my ancestor? Especially they come from the same country or even the same county. So it makes it difficult. But then late in the 19th century, the federal government actually revised the forms and started collecting more information. So the original 6 columns went to 20, and we'll look at some of those. And it gathered more information from the immigrant. Okay, so where do we find these manifests and ship lists? So I'm going to go through the free sites first, and I'll start with one that many people are familiar, but there are still a number of people who are not. And it's by this one iconoclast, I should call him, Stephen P. Morse, who's created this incredible portal to various ship manifest databases, and he does a lot more as well. He does work on US Census, Canadian and UK Census. You can see in the upper left-hand column there what other things he will do. So the website is stevemorse.org. And here's just a screen print of when you go there, this is what you're confronted with. So you'll see the number of and links to all of these. And the top three or two, actually top two are the most important. Then you move down to the ancestry ones. The first two go to the Ellis Island database, which is a free database, and Family Search is also free, as well as yeah, that's it. Those are the free. Then you would go into Ancestry. But at any rate, each of these links will give you access. And his site does sort of a pre-search for you. And that's what I'll show here. And I encourage everybody who thinks their family name was changed at Ellis Island to click on that second to last link, Ellis Island name change myth, because it's totally a myth that's been sort of propagated. Your name wasn't changed there. So that's the name that was recorded on the ship manifest when it left its port. Okay, a good thing to read is what is the difference between these databases? And you can see he sort of explains it. So the gold form uses a lot more enhanced searches. So you can search under basic things, but also you can search under ethnicity. You can search under date of arrival. You can search under the ship's name if you happen to know it. So there's a lot more. The white form, which goes past 1924, has more limited searching. And both of these go to the ellisisland.org website. And I'll show you some examples from that search. But he actually says all three forms cover the basic years, although the gold form is the preferred form to use in that range from 1892 to 1924, which is where most of our immigrant ancestors came. It was during that period. And sorry that this kind of covers it, but the other window, it gives you the other ports of entry. So he's created some searching portals for Galveston, New Orleans, Baltimore, and they're California, San Francisco. These are other ports of entry, and so these are highly valuable links. All right, so here's the white form. This gives you an idea of what you'll be looking at when you go to search. You can use a broad starts with or contains sounds like for the last name. That's going to give you probably a lot of hits, so you'll need to, sort through those. And you can specify the range of arrival if you happen to know that. And this is good to use in conjunction with the census, because if you can find your ancestor in the 1900, 1910 census, it'll give you an idea of when they came. So then you can use that as your boundary. And here's an early manifest at the Port of New York in 1820. As you can see, it gives you just that basic information. And surprisingly, the handwriting is pretty good, so you can actually read it. So there's not much you can get from this, except you do, get the age. So if you're looking for this person in England, you can perhaps find him by that. So 1820, that means he was born about 1790. Here's the gold form. So you can see there are a lot more that you can search on. And right in the beginning here, he asks for your email address. And the reason he does that is that you will submit this search, and if it's too broad, it may take a long time for it to work its way through. So let it do its work and go on to do something else. When it has actually finished its search, it'll send you an email with a list of its results. And then you can click on those results and go back to this form. So just, something that is handy to have. And again, it has the various fields you can enter. You can actually search by companion, the town name, which is very helpful, I think. And as you can see, all these different gender, marital status, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't really mess with this too much because I'm usually, want to be more specific, but I will use year of arrival if I get, if I'm searching really broadly because I'm not sure the name was spelled correctly. Oops, sorry, I went a little bit fast. And then there's a drop-down menu where you can look at these other menus as well, right from this gold form. Okay, so here I'm going to search for my grandfather, my paternal grandfather. His name was Santo Carbone. So I throw that in there. I knew that he came between 1892 and 1924, but that's all I'm going to do. So I do that, and I come up with a list of these people. So since I made Santo sounds like it captured a few more people. And I'm hearing a little bit of a echo or something. So if people go mute yourself, are you hearing that, Wayne?
So I was muted.
Sounds like
I
a
didn't-
pounding. Sounds like a pounding or something. I'm not sure what's going on.
I'm hearing that.
Yeah. So if people are not muted, or I can go ahead and mute people again. Sometimes you're not aware of that. Let's see if I can do that quickly. Sorry about that. I might not. Oh, okay. Seemed to have stopped. Any rate. So
It
at any
doesn't
rate,
seem- One of them is not muted. It's Jerry, it's not muting LG Stylo 6.
oh, okay.
We've
Okay.
heard that before.
Yeah. That's Rhonda, Wayne. Can you go into participants and mute her, please?
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. So at any rate, here's a list of 16 Santo Carbones. Which one? And I happen to know my grandfather, where he came from. It's a little village in southern Italy called Cirella. And so I know that's him. Besides, I knew his birth date. I could have put this all in too, but I want to make it as broad as possible because you don't know, he might have moved around and then left from a different he might have given a residence of a different town. But at any rate, so these two, so he came over in 1920 and he also came over in 1912. And the genealogy term for these characters are called birds of passage. These are people that came over for a while, worked in this country, and then went back to their families, and then perhaps came back over again, worked a little bit more. It's very similar to what's happening today. So, and you have three columns: passenger record, ship manifest, and ship image. I always click on the ship manifest because that's what I want to look at. The ship image, I don't believe works on Ellis Island anymore. I haven't been able to bring up the ship that he was on, the Conte Grande. I actually have a photo of the ship taken from the ship's deck. They must have taken maybe somebody was selling photos and he bought one, but at any rate, it's kind of cool. So what you do is you click on that view ship manifest, you get to the passenger search record. Now you could have done this in Ellis Island yourself by using their search, but I like to use Steve Morse because you can manipulate it a little bit more, I believe. And again, you need to create a free account here before you can see this. So this tells you the ship name, Argentina, June 12th, 1920. Take note of the line number because that's important when you get a whole list of these people, okay? And then Ellis wants to sell you these records, so you get a really nice, you can put a framed, high resolution image, but you don't need to do that just if you want to collect the information. So what you'll get is a full page of the information. You can take screen prints of it if you know how to do that, and that's what I've done here. So you then can transfer them over to a Word document or just save them and print them yourself. But this is the kind of information you get. And I know many of you have probably gotten this already, but this tells you just a lot of information. So you go down to line 27, and as you can see, that doesn't even look like Santo, that looks like Sante. His age is 39. He's a laborer, Italy, Southern Italian, Chirella. Tells you who his wife is. So this kind of verifies even more that this is the right person you want. And then go on to the next page. Oh, it will also tell you his destination. And this was a big surprise to me, Riverton, Oregon. I never knew that I had any family go to that place in Oregon. And why they were going there, I'm not sure, but I have a pretty good idea at this point. It's for the coal mines. So in the second page, so be sure you look at both pages, gives you who was his passage paid for. It says Italian government. Not sure if that's true or not. But over here, again, says he's going to Riverton, but it tells you who he's going to see. So he's going to see Bruno Agostino, who's a cousin. So in a way, that starts to build your family tree. It's really cool. All of this is things you can look at, but I don't pay much attention to it unless it's something that gives you his height and his hair color and all that stuff. And again, it tells you where his place of birth was. So this is good as well. So at any rate, that's the 1920. So I mean, you could compare it to the 1912, see if the same information's there, which would be interesting to see. Okay, back here. There's these scribblings in the, and what does this mean? Naples 6/11, 29. That's probably 1929. Does that tell me there's another ship manifest I should be looking for? Messina, Italy, October 10th, 29. So this site here, which is at jewishgen.org, helps you identify what those what that scribbling is in the because many people use the same notation, many of the immigration officials or ship manifest people. So this is a very good site. Okay, so Family Search is the other free site that we mentioned, and you go to familysearch.org, create an account for yourself, and go over to the search menu. And we're going to be talking about two different things. We're going to talk about the catalog, which is really the best place to gain access to all the records that Family Search has, and the Research Wiki, which is another place which really inform your research for any type of genealogy research. Okay, so here's the catalog search, and the best way to use catalog search is to search by place, and you can get very specific here, but because I'm looking for immigration records to the United States, I just use United States and immigration, and it pulls up a whole list of items, but this is the one that you really want to look at: United States immigration and immigration indexes. Oh, and let me mention here, make sure you click on the online as well, because that will give you all the records that are available to you online. Otherwise, if you do any, there will be certain things that you're not going to be able to look at. So as you can see, it gives you a lot of places which you can look for passenger lists. Here's the Massachusetts Boston list from 1848 to 91. But here are the ones that we were concerned with: Ellis Island and these three here. And you can explore these others too, but I would really suggest that you work with these.
I did.
Here is some of the other links that you may want to look at. Here is the early passengers to the US came into the Philadelphia port, I believe. And here is a passenger list from 1800 to 1906. It's a very small one. I took a look at it, but you never know. And we're going to talk a little bit about border crossings a little bit later. And people whose ancestors came because of the famine. This is a collection record that a private organization went through and extracted passenger lists. So that might be a good one to look at. And here's I mentioned the alien case files. This is an index to those. And went backward there. Okay. So here is the famine Irish passenger list. I picked this one just to give you an example. When you click on it, you go to this link here, and then you want to click here to access it. But I would suggest, if you're not familiar with the resource, is to look in the wiki. And once you click here, you'll be given a chance to look at a description of the resource in the wiki, and it will bring you here. And it will go through and tell you what's in the collection, how do I analyze the results, etc. And you can do this for any resource that you pick up in Family Search. And so since I'm here, I'll talk a little bit about the wiki and the various countries and I've created in that resource list, I've made links to all the countries that were mentioned in your registration when you did your registration for this session. So I created a link to all of them. So they're all going to look similar to this. So this is the one for Hungary. So when you get there, it gives you basic information on Hungary with links to the bordering countries, which might be handy. These two links will give you access to online genealogy records for Hungary, as well as you can ask a community. It'll break down the various counties or provinces in Hungary with links to those. Cool things like letter writing guide. If you have to write to a repository in Hungary, it'll give you some hints on how to do that. And now this is what I really want to highlight. These are all the links to the various Hungarian, cemeteries, church history, church records. And of course, we're talking about this topic. So if you click there, you'll get to this part right here. And this will bring out some of the other immigration records, which go outside of Family Search as well. So this will send you to other sites like Ancestry and some more specific sites. But I want to look at this one here, which is, as you see, these are all in a foreign language, German or Hungarian. But I want to look at this one because this one, Austro-Hungarian passports, and look at the time period. It goes all the way through the 19th and early 20th century. So when I go back to the catalog search for this record, so you see you can get to it in two different ways. You see that you have it here. Now, when you click on that link, and I want to do this because I want to bring you to the actual record. So I'm going to have to do another share because you won't be able to see this unless I do it. So let's do new share. Okay, I think you should be looking at my website now. Is that correct? Okay, so now if you did the catalog search, this is what you would find. And you come down here and you see this. Now, here's a really cool thing. If you use Chrome and you right-click on a page that's not in English, you can come down here and you can translate it to English, and it will translate it to English for you. So now you can actually read what these links will bring you to. And when you click on one of these links, you're going to get images, you're going to get records. And those records are not going to be in English, but at least you will have some idea of what you're really looking at here. And then if you do come up with that, you come up with a record, at least with a name or something, you can use Google Translate or some other online translating utility to translate that. So at any rate, that's just really a cool thing that Google Chrome offers, and perhaps some of the other browsers do too. I'm not that familiar, but that's a good one. So at any rate, let me go back to this to my PowerPoint here. Okay, so that was wanted to show you that. Okay, so kind of skips around. So let's look at the Ancestry.com. These are the immigration records from Ancestry, and as Wayne mentioned, you can access this through the libraries if you don't have your own account. And I'll just go through the way that I do things, and there are different ways of approaching this. There's no, tried and true method, but I just like going at it through a more maybe hierarchical point of view, rather than just putting a name in a search box. So I go to the search bar, and it will then open up, and then I go to a card catalog. The card catalog will give you a number of options. I click on immigration, and then it'll tell you the number of databases it has for that. And I click on passengers lists, and you get a list of passengers lists from various countries. Click on USA, and then you will get a list of the passenger lists from the USA. And then I like to sort by record count, so I can get, so at the top of the list will come the highest number of records. And so this is the one with 95 million records. So that's the first one I'm going to search. And so at any rate, I've actually kind of done that. I'll come back to it, but I want to show you what a border crossing will actually look like as well. So these are the Mexico border crossings. I'm going to just make sure that I didn't skip. Yeah. Okay. So this is the border crossings. So this one is, I've gone back to Family Search to do this. And I just wanted to show you for this particular one that's coming up, what this will give you. So in the Mexico border crossings from Family Search, it will give you a way to search by name. And I was able to do a search for this particular person here who is related to me in some way, and I'm not sure how. It's just some family story, and I have an image of this. But at any rate, I was able to bring this person, was able to find this person through the border crossing, but it didn't give me more information than when he immigrated and his birth date. But it was very helpful because it matched information I already had on this person. This postcard came to me through my father's family, and it was a postcard that my grandfather held, but I don't know if this little boy is his son or is his nephew. So anyway, it's inscribed on the back. On the front, it's Edad, 6 months old. On the other side is in Spanish. I dedicate this photo as proof of your nephew's love for you, Armando Antonio Carbone, Rincon, Coahuila, New Mexico, November 29th, 1927. So that puts his birth date at about April or May, which corresponds to that border crossing record that we found. And I know that my grandfather was in Mexico for a while, and he was there during this time. So there's a good chance that this was his son. But the fact that he had his nephew, so unless it was sent to a brother or something, I don't know. But at any rate, I do the search now in Ancestry in the border crossing database. And not only does it bring me this record, but it gives me a document of him. And this document, oh, sorry about that. Sorry, this is, I actually had a frame that showed this, this piece here, but I think something happened to it. Let's see. At any rate, I may be able to show it to you later, but it actually is a picture of this man and his fingerprint. And he was living in Juarez, Chihuahua in July 31st, 1950, and came across the border, and it gave him access to the US for a period of 2 hours. He was a mechanic working in Juarez. It gives his address in Juarez. So if I wanted to pursue this a little bit more, I could probably find this individual and maybe some more background on him, and maybe be able to figure out how this person's related. I have not had a DNA match that has any relevance to it yet. So, at any rate, it was just kind of a neat thing that just recently happened, actually, when I was searching for him. So that's that. So let's look at some naturalization records. This is a certificate of citizenship from my grandfather on my maternal side. This is at the end of the naturalization process, when the immigrant is actually granted citizenship in the US, and it gives good information, tells you where he's residing, gives you his age, when this was done, and a photo of him, which is kind of cool. I mean, I knew what he looked like. He was my grandfather, but also you see some discrepancies here too. His name is Clyde here, but he signed it Gaetano. Well, this is the name he was given in Italy. I have his birth record. And I'm actually pursuing my Italian dual citizenship because I can do this. And this is presenting problems for my application because I have 3 different names for him. And so, they're wondering, is this the same guy? Or are you going looking at the wrong person? But at any rate, I'm been able to I think get past that. But this is the last in the series of documents. So the naturalization law is just a very quick overview. The first one was passed in 1790. Free white males over the age of 21 could apply for citizenship before any court of record after 2 years of residence in the US and 1 year in any state. No declaration of intention was required. And that's one of the other documents we'll talk about. Then as it goes through, it starts to change. In 1795, the requirement was raised to 5 years with 1 year in the state. Single woman over the 21 could apply. Widows and children of aliens had declared intent, but died prior to final to become citizens by taking the naturalization oath. Military veterans. 1906 is a big date because aliens were required to register upon entry. And so for residence requirements, a declaration on file for 2 years prior to petition. Petition is another document you will see, and 5 years residence before final papers, which is the certificate. Wives and minor children continue to derive citizenship as well. And this is what Wayne mentioned in his talk. 1922 is another big year because women aged 21 years and older could become citizens regardless of marital status, and they no longer became citizens upon their husband's naturalization. So that was the big difference there, and so for the minors. And then in 2003, the Bureau of Immigration and Naturalization was created, and then they took over the naturalization records, and then you had the INS, which is now the USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. So these records will be scattered. So the two documents are the declaration, so it's filed anytime after immigrant arrives, and the petition for naturalization, which is filed 2 to 3 years after the declaration, with no less than 5 years after arrival. And as I said before, they could file in any court prior to 1906. After 1906, the federal government assumed responsibilities and could naturalize in their court of residence. And then information collected, date of place of birth, address, and port date, etc. And after 1929, they may have photos. Okay, so this is the finding the declaration of intention. 2 ways of doing it. Through the family search, which is the top part, and the bottom part is through the ancestry.com. With family search, you get this whole list of possible places to search. And so you kind of have to know what volume, the number. Many of these rows have their own volume index, but you have to look at the index within the volume. So it's just an image that you parse through. So you can use this, but I use the ancestry.com, and because he's lived in Colorado, I go to the Colorado state and federal naturalization records. When I throw in his last name, which actually began as Spera, then became Sparrow, I get these records. You don't even see Gaetano or Clyde. You see this other, you see Kite. And Kite was the other name that he used. Kite Spera, actually, I know what I did. I don't have I don't have my current, this is weird. This is not my current PowerPoint. This is an earlier version. That's why, hold on a second, just give me a minute. I'm going to pull it up. I'll pull up the current version. Sorry about that. Okay, now I got the right one. Anyway, so I'll just start that border crossing one over a little bit so you can see some of these images. So anyway, I thought this was kind of a cool image from 1920, what a border crossing looked like. So here's the guy again. Okay, here is Armando on the right here. That's the image that I was wondering where it went to, but that's the card, the admission card that he was given to cross into the border in Juarez and Juarez El Paso border. Okay, all right. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, this is where we were and when I knew that I didn't have the right. So he actually filed 2 declarations of intention, because he filed the first one in 1919, and then he didn't act on it and expired. So he had to file again in 1928. So 9 years later, he files again. And actually, it's kind of helpful because it shows that he changed addresses. He was on Navajo Street in 1919, and then his residence changed to Pecos Street in 1928. And there are some differences in the 2 declarations. This one shows that it shows the name of the vessel that he came over on, which is kind of cool. You got that, and it gives his wife's name, so it gives that as well. Gives his where he was born. Gives his date of birth and both, and a little description. His occupation was laborer, so it does tell you a little bit more about that as well. And it tells you the date that he came over, March 12th, 1912. So anyway, that's that. I wanted to show you the fact that there had been 2 declarations of intention filed. All right, so now this is his petition, which is granted, after 5 years, although he waited quite a while on this because he didn't actually file this until 1933, I believe. But this petition for naturalization, as you can see, is even more, has even more content on it. You can see here that, he uses his given name of Gaetano, tells you where he resides. Here's a new wife. His first wife, who was my grandmother, died, and so he remarried. And here it lists his children. And I actually got this record from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. I had to basically file a Freedom of Information Act to get this record, because when it first came, my mother's name was redacted because they must have thought she was still living. So I had to file a FOIA to get this record. I mean, get the record again with her name, and then I find out that they have the wrong birth date. So that's just another conflict that I'll have to deal with the Italian consulate. But at any rate, this is a very important document because it gives you so much rich information about the applicant. Gives you all the children. Tells you it's interesting. It looks like a different ship. Maybe you didn't remember correctly. And it gives you the people who are witnesses to the affidavit. So these are people who are probably relatives or friends. At any rate, just an interesting example. So if you can't find your ancestors in these places, then you can try writing to the county clerk's offices, a county genealogical society, and the Regional National Archive branch, which is what I think Wayne was using for some of his research. And then the actual certificate of naturalization, that document, if it's not in your ancestors' files, then you have to go to the USCIS, and there are fees for searching and obtaining. These are called C files, which includes all of those documents I mentioned, plus correspondence that they might have had. It's very expensive. There's a proposal now to increase the fees for searches and document retrieval, and it's going up astronomically. It could be as much as $500 or $600 to get these documents. So you can make your voice known on the website that these are not accessible for people doing genealogy research. And then the other records available: alien registration, detention, visas, and bureau naturalization files. Those are beyond the scope, but they are also places where you can go, and maybe sometime in the future we could spend some time with that. So I know I threw a lot of information at you, but anyway, at least it'll be available on the video as well as the slides. So if you want to go through those, if you have specific questions, you can email our Windham County Gig at gmail.com for information.
We had a question there on the chat about not being able to see what you were doing. I don't know if you folks, if you want to unmute and ask the question directly.
I didn't see that. No.
Well, somebody was having, I think, trying to use family search.
I was trying to follow along, but we've
I see.
asked that. I wasn't getting on my screen what you were showing on your screen. I
Oh,
realized that you were showing slides of a screen you done.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry about that. Well, if you work along, you have any questions, just email, and see if we can straighten it out.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if any other questions, I'm sure you won't have any until you try to do this yourself, because that's where the rubber hits the road. And yeah, it all looks so clear and easy, but I'll tell you folks, it's not. It's it's complex. There are different ways to look at things, and different avenues you can take to gather the information, just because of the way sometimes things are indexed and are available. Do people have individual questions? I know there were quite a few in the registration process. And we knew we couldn't address each one. But I hope that the resource list will help you with that if you want to take it either.
Jerry, I have a comment.
Sure, shoot.
On your border crossing card, the word is not Puebla, it's Prueba. Proof, P-R-U-E-B-A. Puebla is
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right about that. I wondered about that myself, and I had a friend who's a Spanish teacher translate it, and because Puebla means like people or something, right? Or not people, but town.
It's P-R-U-E-B-A.
Oh, okay.
Prueba.
Prueba.
I found that border crossing for another person too there.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Well, thanks. I'll go back and look at that card then and make sure it gets translated correctly.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have Ancestry account, and I have made an extensive family tree on there, which has been really fun to do. But I just wondered whether there's anything I can do with the family tree to take it to another site, or I've made it public, but I didn't know whether that's just helpful to me or would be helpful to anyone else.
Go ahead, Wayne, go for it.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. I mean, you can certainly, if you've created a tree on Ancestry, you can download that tree and upload it on other genealogy sites.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do.
Are you not getting hints?
Oh, I get hints, and I've
Okay.
ended the tree and everything. I just didn't know whether it just has to stay on Ancestry or whether it can move anywhere else.
Oh, no, you can download it as a GEDCOM, right? That's how she would do it, Wayne,
There's
right?
a file, yeah,
I can put it on GEDCOM.
well, it's a file transfer protocol, I guess is the word. In other words, on Ancestry, you could download your tree, but it creates a format called a GEDCOM file. And then with that file, you can then upload it, add it to another, if you have genealogy software on your computer, you could add it to that, or you could add it to another website. There are a lot of websites that allow you to load your family tree online. I'm not sure why you would need to do that, though, if you're happy with what you're doing on Ancestry.
I just thought it would be helpful for somebody else to be able to see the information.
Well, if you've made it public on Ancestry, they would be able to see it.
Okay. I did put my DNA on GEDmatch because that's the site where if law enforcement is looking to trace, that having your DNA there is helpful for them. But that was just DNA.
Well, on GEDmatch, you could also upload your family tree. I mean, that would be a place where you could put it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I can
Let's see,
show, if you want, I can show where that, how you export that.
Oh, yeah, all right.
that
I
would
was just going to
help.
say, we could probably show you where to go
Yeah.
to get it off. there.
So if you go to your family tree and you click on settings and you get tree info and you come down here, export tree.
Okay.
Okay. And that's all you got to do. And then you can take it to another site and upload it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, and actually you can upload trees here as well. So you can upload trees to Ancestry as well if they're in a GEDCOM file.
If you've, did you do a DNA test at Ancestry as well?
I did it at Ancestry, and I also did it at 23andMe.
Oh, okay. And well, for example, on Ancestry, it's important that you connect yourself, your DNA results
Yeah.
to your tree.
I did.
You did that. Okay, you're in good shape then. On 23andMe, you can't upload the family tree, but you could connect your family. You could, on 23andMe, you could connect it to your ancestry tree.
Okay, I'll look into it some more.
Yeah,
So- So there are ways you could
Yeah.
connect it, connect
Yeah.
to other trees.
You did that, and we did that in the last session, right, Wayne?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at our video from January, I think it's
Last
in there.
time.
Yeah.
The last session we did, we have it up online to show how to do that with different websites.
Oh, great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Go ahead, Ruth.
I'm on Ancestry as well, and this may be just a technical question about the site, but I like Kathy just created this amazing family tree and followed all these links, and I was really pleased with it. And then shortly after I took my DNA test, it suddenly shrunk down to only the things that it seems like it was only following what it had DNA reliability for or something. And it's asking me what my just my grandfather's name is, which obviously I'd had in there. Is there some setting or something about how you view the website that I'm just not aware of? And I'm happy to take this offline if it's a little too software technical question.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Your tree shouldn't have gone away.
No.
What is useful to do is to identify yourself, identify yourself from your DNA test to yourself on the family tree. And like I said, we do have a video online
Okay.
to show how to do that. It's really useful to do because it will connect. When you get other matches, they can then see how they relate to you, how they're connected to you. So the bigger the tree, the more likely you'll be able to figure out how you connect to people your match.
Sure. I'm wondering if when I got my DNA results, I misanswered some question about how I wanted those to connect with my current.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
Because
maybe that's what happened.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. You might be able to use their tech support. Just pose a question.
Okay.
That might be.
Well, the other thing is you want to make. It sounds like. Did you when you did that? Did you start another tree? I'm wondering if that's why you only have a few people in there.
I didn't purposefully start another tree, but I'm
Okay.
wondering if that's what somehow that happened.
Would it help, Dwayne, to maybe go over? It wouldn't take too long to show how to do that, right? How to connect your tree. Maybe you just have to reconnect the tree.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I can get mine here.
Well, Wayne's doing that. Also, if you download that raw DNA from, whatever, 23andMe or family tree of, Ancestry, you can upload it to two other sites for free, Family Tree DNA and MyHeritage. These are other databases that offer their tests, but they also will accept tests from other companies. And then you get a whole nother population of people who have tested. And
could you repeat the two names? So it's
so Family Tree DNA, and the other one is MyHeritage.
Thank you.
And then, of course, the big one, another big one is GEDmatch, and they don't do testing, but they accept from all of the testing companies. So that's another one that you could also upload to, and they have other sorts of tools to help you, analyze your DNA matches.
And when you say GEDmatch, are you saying literally JED match?
GED.
Oh, great. Duh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
Maybe I'll.
All right, let me just share my screen here. I think I found it.
Okay.
How do we find your last class?
I put that a link in the chat, but when I send out the video for this one, I'll send out the links for it. So you'll see it it's a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm in Ancestry, DNA. And over on the right-hand side, there's a thing called, there's a little button over here called Settings in the upper right. When you click on Settings, in the middle here, there's Link DNA to Tree. So you can link your DNA. In this case, I'm linked to me in the Blanchard family tree that I created. So if you click on that and you can be sure that to make sure that you're linked to yourself in the family tree that you've created.
Okay,
I'm not sure if that's
I'll give it a look.
going on, but
Yeah. it's a good-
under trees,
try.
it'll list all the trees that you have. So if by accident somehow you created another tree,
Ah, okay.
you might want to just check, make sure that you're connected to the tree that you want to be connected to.
Thank you. I'll give that a try. I appreciate that.
Hey, Chip, you had a question about the Google Drive?
Yeah, that's one. I'm having difficulty getting into it or finding it.
Oh, you mean Google Drive generally or our link?
Your link.
Oh, really? Okay. I wonder, see, I thought I put it in the chat, but let's see. Let me just test to make sure it works. All right. Chip, try this link just to see if, or anybody can, just to see if it goes to a Google Drive. You should see a list of folders when you click on that.
Yep, I just got it. Yep,
Okay.
Here it is. Here it is.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah,
Maybe
it
there
comes up.
May I ask a question about naturalization documents?
Oh, sure.
I'm trying to locate my grandfather's naturalization papers because I too am trying to see about Italian citizenship.
Yes, I think we talked a little bit about this once, right?
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No? Okay.
But when I use family search and put in his last name, I only come up with his brother. By the 1920 census, he's listed as naturalized, and I can't read it whether it's 1918 or 1911. But on the family search site, it doesn't give the list of the NARA ID numbers. It just says list 2 and says and many more. If I go to a family search or a family Latter-day Saint church and use their stuff, would their microfilms have much more than what's digitized?
Is it when you click on that link, is it telling you that you need to go to a family history center? Yeah,
No, the
then,
only
yeah.
relative I can find is his brother.
Yeah.
There's nothing for him. His brother was naturalized in 1906.
What's the location?
He was naturalized in the New Haven Court of Common Pleas.
Oh, okay, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you should try searching in family search under Connecticut Court of Common Pleas and see what they have, what databases they have, because the record might be in that database. Or there might be more, if you go down to the Connecticut immigration links. That's where you were?
Yeah,
Is that where
I was in the Connecticut links.
for immigration?
Yeah.
Would
there's
he
a
have been
statement-
would he have been a minor?
Yeah.
Let's see. He
And
came
that-
over at age 10. He could have been a minor. Well,
So
maybe, but no.
So you would need to look for his father, or
Yeah.
He was not a minor. His father apparently was not naturalized.
uh,
Yeah, for those, you might have to do a USCIS search, pay for the
Okay.
search to do that. They'll search the index,
Yeah.
and then if they come back with something, then you'll have to pay another fee for them to get you the documents.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Thanks.
unfortunate.
But, yeah, but I
because
look a
it's
little-
very similar to my
It
situation,
it is, yeah, I look a little further first,
you
yeah.
know, where, I mean, usually the parent, the father became naturalized, and then the wife and all of the children were also automatically naturalized. And it's also difficult because it's in Connecticut. Like I said, when I actually went to that National Archives site in Waltham, they cover all of New England, but it didn't sound like they had much. I don't know why they don't have much for records, but at least with the one I was looking for, as I showed you that card, that was all, they said that's all they had. And, you know, because I was looking, you know, I had that little naturalization card, and I thought, well, there must be something on those volume and pages, but they had nothing. So, but you may have a different experience, you know.
Hey,
You're at a later period, 1906 versus 1880. So,
right.
uh,
Chip, the Vermont Italian Cultural Association, VICA as it's known, does Italian dual citizenship presentations a couple times a year. The next one coming up is Tuesday, April 4th at 7 p.m. And I'll make a note to send you a link, or maybe I'll just send it to the group in case anybody is interested. And I'm there, and I'm helpful, but there's another fellow, Mark Dombrosi, who specializes in Vermont, in dual citizenship, and he lives in Connecticut. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, so that would be a
Thanks.
good place to do it. So I'll make a note about that.
the other thought I had, it might be worth it to just try calling that regional office in Waltham, Mass. Just
An hour and a half on hold.
Oh no. Okay.
Do
I'm
they have
not
good?
calling, so.
Do they have good music at least?
No.
Dear. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh well.
It's been a
So
while.
what census does he appear on? Now you got my interest piqued.
Well, he's listed as naturalized in the 1920 census.
And where is that? What's his name?
The last name is Hippolitus. First name Paul.
Hippo.
Litus. It was changed from Ippolito at some point.
Oh, okay. And that was in New Haven, huh?
Yeah, it was allegedly, according to family material, was naturalized in the New Haven Court of Common Pleas.
Oh, okay. Okay. George, you have a question? Would you like to? Yeah, shoot.
As I'm just getting into this, and I'm using FamilySearch.org, as is my daughter. And we've been comparing notes. And we've both got our trees built. And my parents, her grandparents are in there. They're dead. They're in there. That seems to work. But I cannot link to her. When I try to add her as a child using the ID number she gave me, it says not found. And then she said that maybe you cannot see the records of living people.
People. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
that's
some way to
true.
give
But
permission to link
that could
those?
be.
they
They don't
have,
get.
I'm sorry. They have some, they're changing that though. You can create, I'm not sure if it's ready yet. I just watched a presentation yesterday. You can create a family group so that you can do what you're saying, so that you can see other living people who are in your family group.
Ah,
But you have to create that group. And I've not tried it myself, but it's a new feature they've added because of situations just like you described, where different family members are sort of working together on genealogy, and so that you can see each other's trees. So you can become I forgot how they worded it, but basically you can she can put herself into your tree, or you could put you into her tree, so that you can see each other and talk, and communicate back and forth. It's a new feature on their site, so I can't tell you exactly where to find it, but I do know that what you need to do is create a family group to do that.
Yeah, I would actually recommend people get a hold of some genealogy software and make sure you have a copy of your tree on your local computer. The two, there are several. The ones I've used, it's Roots Magic and Family Tree Maker, FTM. Roots Magic has a free version of up to, I don't know, 400 or so, people, and you can download that for free. And it, just so you have like an archival copy of what you're putting in. So, and then you can work on the local and upload it. You can upload these to these sites or sync them with the site so that you can accept or reject changes. And I know especially with the family search site, changes can be made that you don't agree with.
Gary, Jerry, you said Roots Magic and the other one was Family
Tree Maker, yeah.
Family Tree
I'll
Maker.
put-
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put the links in the chat.
Great. Thank you.
And Roots Magic just has, I think they just come up with a new version, and they have versions for both Mac and PC.
Yeah, version 9 just came out, and
Oh,
upgrade is until I guess the middle of next week or maybe Monday. Upgrade is $20, then it goes up to a full price.
oh, okay, good. Oh, great, good information. Thanks.
So I added a link there in the chat about these family groups, so that people want to see it. It's an older page, but it kind of describes what you can do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's Family Tree Maker. I believe it's a Ukrainian company.
Oh, you're right.
Are you guys ready to go do your research on ship manifest? Once you find one, it'll really it's very exciting. Okay. Well, unless there are any more questions, I think we're going to try. Let's see, May is not a good, we try to do these every 2 months, and May is not a good month for either Wayne or myself. So we're going to push it, I think, to June. And let's see, what did I say? June 10th? Is that going to work for you, Wayne?
Yeah, Jerry, I forgot I meant to get back to you.
Oh, okay.
I have another conflict for the June, first Saturday in June too.
Okay. Well, we'll come up with a date in June. It won't be the second Saturday. We'll send that out to people.
Yeah, well, you and I'll have to get together.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And okay, and I hope that was helpful for people. We'll when the video's ready, I'll send that out so you can review it if you so wish. And if you have any other questions, you have our email, and any suggestions, because we're always talking about what we should do next. So this seemed to be a popular one. We got a number of people interested in it. So if you have,
Where are your emails?
You mean the email addresses? Let's see, you got forwarded the email, right, Kathy? Is that what happened? Because I'll put you on the email list. So
Okay,
you'll get our email. Anybody who came to this meeting, I'll just automatically put on our list. So whenever something goes out, you'll get what everybody else gets.
that's great.
Okay, then you'll have the email address for us.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Sure, you're
Well,
welcome.
thanks, everybody. For
Thank you.
participating.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So much.
Thank you.
Go.
It was a great session.
Okay, great. Go out and enjoy the snow, those of you who can.